Hello Degens. Evelynn has a really big personality and a nice set of boobs and the fattest ass, like holy shit. So yes, it appears that we are a bunch of gooners, well, me at least, but MiHoYoverse as well. I've now had the chance to give her a good go on the beta server with actually coherent teams, and now I'm a lot more confident in giving an opinion on Evelynn. So today, let's talk through Evelynn, how she performs, and whether you should actually pull for her or not. And to kick things off, as always, waifu over meta. If you're into the sophisticated blonde assassin spy type women, then just go for it, my guys. Empty your wallet and your nuts and just be done with it, alright? That said, let's get inside of Evelynn. Alright, so to be honest, I expected Evelynn to kind of be like Zhu right? In that her damage would be condensed into a smaller window. And for those of you who don't know about Zhu, the TLDR is that she does most of her damage whilst the enemy is stunned because she gets like damage bonuses. And there were two things that led me to this conclusion. So scrolling all the way down to the core skill, core passive, and additional ability. For the core passive, she gets a fat 25% crit rate buff when she enters a certain form, and this buff does linger for 10 seconds after you exit the form. And so this form, this state is called Binding Seal, so Binding Seal state, and so this is what it looks like. You've got this red string of fate type shit right here, and so if I head into the detailed stats, what you will see is plus 25% to the crit rate. And so I was like, oh, this Binding Seal thing, this red string of fate thing, it probably is going to like, we're going to get into the mode and out of the mode, right? Like we're probably going to consume it somehow, and then we're going to get it back, and then we're going to have to essentially manage, right? So there goes that string. It turns out that if you use even just like 1% of your available brain power, you are pretty much constantly in Binding Seal, and this thing never turns off. So 100% uptime, free 25% crit rate. Huh. But then we've got the second point, which is the additional ability down here, Ambush Point. TLDR, if you have a stun or support character, and if your crit rate is above 80%, get more chain attack and ultimate damage. And I was like, oh, chain attacks and ultimates, they're actually not that frequent, right? They're not going to happen too often. So she's going to be more of a bursty type character. Maybe like we buff her up and then we use the chain attack and ultimate together, whatever. Nope. Giga fake news. It turns out, my Degens, she does chain attacks pretty much constantly. And when I say constantly, it's pretty much every 10 to 12 seconds. I actually measured it, yes. And so this is why she is not like Zhu at all. She does a lot of damage, but not in a condensed like stun window or anything. She just does it all the time. And so speaking of the chain attack, this is what it looks like. And look at that fat ass, holy shit. And so her entire kit is essentially centered around what you just saw there. First off, we have a gauge up here in which we can build the gauge by just like auto attacking and perfect dodging and all of that. After we build some gauge, hold basic attack, and you can see we get a stack, and there's this arrow over here. And so I'm just going to build gauge, and then I'm going to get 3 arrows. As you can see, I am fully stacked up. With 3 of these stacks, I hold basic attack, and then I get that big ass shot right there. Nice. And so again, this mini chain attack, it's actually a slightly weaker version of the chain attack. Now, let me explain that, because when I say slightly weaker, I don't mean in the context of damage, right? The mini chain attack actually does just as much damage, 1.6k multiplier, as the actual chain attack. So mini chain attack is located in basic attack, passive, bind. And so as you see, once Evelynn has 3 of those stacks, then we can use a lower interrupt level of chain attack, Lunalux Snare. That's freaking nutty, my Degens, but that's not the nuttiest part, especially because we're all gooners. The crazier part is, let me come back over here. You see that? She's got her jacket on. And here, what we're going to do is we're going to take off that jacket. We're going to strip her down very slowly, very sensually. And how we achieve that is by using her ultimate. So you see that? Jacket on, and then she's going to take it off. Boom. There she is. Jacket off. And for the rest of the battle, her jacket is going to be off. And so the jacket comes off, the gloves come on, you get handcuffed to the bed and get pegged. What happens now is that I have that chain attack ready because I've got 3 stacks over here. With the jacket off, our chain attack actually only consumes 2 of the 3 stacks. So if I use the chain attack, boom, you can see we get a refund of 1, which means we get to charge these chain attacks even faster. And that's what led to my calculation of about 10 to 12 seconds. Again, I measured it, but I measured it whilst we're in alt form. 10 seconds, 1.6k multiplier on the chain attack. Actually, even more, because remember, if we go all the way to the bottom, we've got these fat bonuses plus 30% times 1.25, whatever. It all adds up, and she turns out to be really, really freaking strong. Now, there is one more point about the chain attack, and it's that you can actually swap cancel out of it. So let me go into chain attack, and then I can swap cancel. And you can see the animation is actually really freaking long. And it's actually in your best interest to do that swap cancel, because what you saw was that Evelynn actually does a follow-up attack. So if I go into it again, boom, boom, and I swap into Collider, and then she does the big boom, and then that was the follow-up attack immediately after. Now, I've pretty much covered her entire kit, but there is one more really interesting thing, and it's that you can actually push her E with or without energy to do a like kind of a skill dodge, right? So let me wait for him to flash me, and as you can see, we did this whole like evasive kind of thing swirling around. So let me just do that again. I'm gonna hit skill. So I'm not dodging, I'm using skill, and you can see it's some like really sick shit, right? And so this thing is pretty much identical to Yanagi's one, where she does the parry. And again, you don't need energy to use it, as you just saw. Now, the reason why you would actually try to use this is because this gauge up here that we've been talking about the whole time, this actually gets extra restoration if you're able to pull off these perfect dodge kind of things, right? You get 25%, as you saw. That is a fat chunky amount. And so I think that's really nice, because what it is saying is, oh, well, we're going to actually reward you for good gameplay, not like me. And so with all of that, I want to give my opinion on how I feel about Evelynn and all of this. To be honest, my gut feel from my 25 years of experience in the critically acclaimed anime ARPG Zenless Zone Zero is that yes, Evelynn is stronger than some of our launch attackers. I'm talking Jueyuan, I'm talking Ellen, if we're talking like just element neutral, especially because Astra exists. And because Astra exists, or maybe even any other future S rank support limited ones, she is just as good, if not better, than like any anomaly team. I'm talking like the Yanagi Bernice, Jane Bernice, and all of that. Miyabi, obviously, that's a different story. She is an exception because she is a Giga Cracked Void Hunter. But my final conclusion would be that Evelynn is absolutely what you would expect from a modern attacker that is competitive with very saturated anomaly meta. And so in that case, should you really pull for her then? Let's talk through some of the considerations. The general answer that I'm going to give is that if you're a newer player, or even an old one, but if you not only got Miyabi, but you also were able to secure Harumasa because Harumasa was free, you actually could consider pulling for Evelynn. And the reason I say that is because the next few banners have been drip marketed. We've got SS Anbi and Trigger. SS Anbi is an electric attacker. Harumasa is an electric attacker who you already have, hopefully. Evelynn, on the other hand, is actually fire, and so Evelynn would get you more coverage from that aspect. So yeah, you could absolutely consider her from that perspective. That said though, if you are watching this video and Astra banner is still up, I would say that in terms of pull value, in terms of longevity, not getting power creeped, yada yada yada, Astra is still definitely up there. Actually, she's probably like my top pick right now. She's just loaded with value, universal, and literally fits into like pretty much any team and makes them 100 times better. That said though, on the universal point, Evelynn is really good. She will be able to clear like any non-fire resistant content, kind of like your Miyabi, but again, not as Giga Cracked. And another reason is because her conditional ability is dependent on stun or support character, which is pretty much 100% of the teams that you'll ever run with her. That said though, again, in terms of pull priority, similar to Astra, you could be looking at characters like Caesar, you could be looking at characters like Bernice, and definitely Astra, right? These are the type of characters that can kind of just go anywhere. For Caesar and Astra, it's like, oh, I need to fill this third slot with something, anything that will make my team better. It's Astra or it's Caesar. And if it's Anomaly, then it's Bernice. The next consideration is if you already have Soldier 11. Evelynn is going to be way better than Soldier 11, but that's just how the game is, right? Limited S rank versus our standard S rank girl right here. It is what it is. However, if you are making do with Soldier 11, then yes, absolutely. You could certainly skip your Evelynn for the Soldier 11. And then there's the case of if you're like really, really new and you don't have Miyabi or any limited S rank attacker. Yes, 100% I would say pull for Evelynn, and I say this a lot, but just by having a limited S rank attacker just helps you enjoy the game like 1,000 times more. It's a completely different experience. So yeah, hopefully that helps you a bit in understanding Evelynn, what exactly she does, how she fits into the meta, and if you should actually pull for her or not. And remember to subscribe for my Evelynn guide because she's actually got so many like fun tips and tricks, and there is a lot to discover. But that, my degens, is the end of the video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.
Be a better place for us to live.